guys, it's Annika, and today we are going to replace all of my legs. Hopefully they'll let me film the casting and everything today. I just moved to Salt Lake City, so I am with the Salt Lake City VA, and I haven't had legs that fit in about 2 years. So it is not typical that this late into an amputation, you replace all of your legs, but literally, I've just been struggling for the last couple of years. There is very, very good reason to believe that I have CRPS, and we are still working with that diagnosis. But in the meantime, my new VA doctors were like, we can at least get you in a check socket because you walking around on legs that don't fit is just going to make your condition worse and going to make you in more pain. So, Salt Lake City seems to have more reasoning than LA. Who knew? So yeah, I am going in. I should be getting cast. We're starting from scratch. So I'm going to hopefully make a video to show you how the leg making process works. So come along. So I was able to record my entire prosthetics casting. The entire thing took about 45 minutes. My prosthetist does a really, really good job of explaining everything that he's doing, and I think it's pretty interesting. So I will be fast forwarding through all the kind of boring stuff, but yeah, he taught me a lot of stuff that I feel like most amputees don't know, and it's just interesting information to have. So he's just getting me prepped before casting me for my leg, looking at what my last leg looked like, feeling around my leg what it feels like, and seeing if there's any bony protrusions or anything. And yeah. He starts by wrapping my leg in plastic so the plaster does not stick to my liner. And he gets the plaster wet so he can wrap it around my leg. Just like somebody getting a cast, he wraps it and molds it to my leg, and he will explain the rest.
Kind of explain what I'm doing so you can edit out what you want and what you don't want.
Sure.
So there's pressure tolerant areas on your leg and there's pressure sensitive areas. There's certain areas we really cannot push on. Mm-hmm. It hurts like crazy if we do, and we know that. Then there's areas that you can't just have everywhere not have pressure. Your leg has to take pressure because you're going to be walking on this. So the areas that we can put pressure, typically we can't put pressure on the front of the tibia, especially not the cut end of the bone. That's a problem for everybody. Sounds like it's a problem for you too. But if we just go create a void there, then there's too much space inside. So we create a void there, and then we take up the volume by pushing kind of on either side in here and here. So we're almost taking a little away by adding a little back right here. You can kind of grab on the back of the calf as well because your calf has a lot of muscle. So that's an area that can take a little bit more pressure as well. And then typically right around the kneecap, just below the kneecap you can't push on, but just below the kneecap you have your patella tendon. And back behind, I'm pushing and kind of making it flat back by the hamstrings. The hamstrings themselves we can't push on either. They're too sensitive. When you're being active, you're doing things, it's going to cause friction. It's going to cause sores on those hamstring tendons, which are medial and lateral, so inside, outside, right here on the back of the leg. So we're kind of pushing and avoiding those. We're pushing and avoiding here. And then the whole back is basically pretty friendly to pressure. You have your fibula here that has nerves that run around it, so you got to be cautious of that too. So you got your tibia, your fibula, and your hamstrings, and those are like the primary. There's other things as well, but those are the 4 big ones where you got to be very cautious not to put pressure there, because those will definitely, I would say for almost every single person, those will be a problem. Now everybody has their unique areas, and that's the type of stuff as we go through the process we figure out where you can tolerate and want more pressure, or you can't tolerate pressure. But I don't know if there's anybody out here that wants pressure on the hamstrings, the tibia, or the fibula. It's just not a thing. So,
Yeah.
Okay. So kind of slowly.
Comes off so much easier than with the sealant. So you didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Something that I've had in other ones. Normally you mark up like the areas and you measure and stuff. Why didn't you do that?
So I still need to measure. Now I don't necessarily need to do it on the cast because you actually have some pretty good definition. So when I actually pour it, I'm gonna be able to see everything I need.
Oh, interesting.
I probably should have for the video, honestly.
Yeah, it's
but
okay.
typically speaking, if I'm working with a student, I always tell them to mark. Because if you haven't done it before, don't assume. When you've done it for a bit, you feel that cast, and I'll be able to feel your fib head and feel your patella tendon. I kind of accentuated certain areas. But the measurements are definitely always necessary, because measurements are a lot different than a cast. I trust my cast more than I trust my measurements. But typically with the marks and things like that, they're gonna shift anyways. You know, you put it on a sock, you go and cast, everything shifts. So when you actually get it out, you're looking at it and it's getting you ballpark. New to the field, definitely always mark, for sure. Not new to the field, mark if you feel like it's a limb that you're not going to be able to read later. But the measurements for sure, we got to still measure because the measurements are going to make a huge difference. The saran wrap messes up our measurements, so I like to do it just straight over your liner. So that's the bottom of your kneecap. That's your tibial tubercle. So that's your patella. Tibial tubercle.
Never heard that term.
So this is kind of the proximal and distal portion of your cut end of your tibia, which is the bone down here. It tends to have a bit of a prominence to it, and as it heals, it doesn't tend to heal perfectly smooth. It tends to be a little bit of a bulbous, round area, and this is the apex, the top of it. So this is the area I have to be most cautious of, but down here can be issues too. Typically up here isn't too bad, but I kind of like to know where it's at. So I'm taking my measurements. I'm taking lengths from the bottom to these different landmarks because I want to know where they are. And then I'm taking my circumferential measurements in 1 inch increments all the way up your leg.
Cool.
The last thing I'm going to do is when I'm done taking all those measurements, I'm going to take with calipers and check the width of your knee at its widest and its narrowest in front to back. Typically what I'm looking for is just a superficial measurement like this. And then I'll test and go tight and loose. And my measurement that I'm taking, the superficial one, for you is right in the middle of the two. For some people, if they've got a lot of tissue, their superficial measurement, just the surface measurement, varies a lot because you're compressing a lot of soft tissue. And so then those endpoints matter a whole lot. So you got to be. Now, have you had problems with your fib head ever?
Yes.
Okay. Often?
Sometimes it just comes and goes. Like the other day I put on my leg and I was like, wow, my fibula freaking hurts.
Does that shoot like phantom pains down your limb? Or is it just at the fibula?
It's very localized.
Okay, that's good. I mean, it's not good, it's bad, but it's better than the alternative, which is some people experience it localized, and it also sparks up some pretty decent phantom pains.
I don't get phantom pain or sensation.
It's amazing.
I had TMR during my initial amputation. I get residual limb pain, and that's bad, but like everything, like I can exactly pinpoint where it is.
That's fantastic. Because with some amputees, they'll report pain down here. We'll take a look at the socket, there's nothing going on there. And really then we'll alleviate some pressure on one of the nerves up above, and the pain goes way down below. And so it makes it more difficult, and it makes it to where you got to have communication, a good relationship, right? Like you got to be able to trust each other that what you're doing makes sense. So these measurements, it's just a caliper. It's like a soft caliper, but we're measuring the apex of the condyles. So that's the largest part of your knee, kind of the widest. And our measurements here. Above the condyle, where it's a little bit softer. It's kind of where the muscles of the thighs attach. So it's less bone, a little more, there's a little more squish to it. In your popliteal, the large piece goes. I don't want to be pushing on your kneecap or on the tibial tubercle, so right between the two is the patella tendon.
Cool. So that went great. I really like this new prosthetic technician. And yeah, I'm excited that he's willing to work with me. He seems really responsive, and I really like this team so far. So Salt Lake City, VA, got a thumbs up for me for now. But I will come back next week to get my check socket. Check socket is the plastic part, and I will update you guys when I get that. So I'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys.